first round, I would request the panelists to just introduce themselves and then as the panel progresses.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I consider this as my privilege. I'm Prashant Swami, President and CEO of Continental India. Maybe many of you are aware Continental is a tire company, but that's just one of our products, but we do a lot many technology products into automotive. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Vipul Chandra, the Managing Director for Ducati India. And I think probably I'm the only one odd man out here because I have not handled manufacturing anywhere. So you will get the perspective of sales from my side. Thank you.
So Ramashankar, I represent Tata Green Batteries, CEO there. I work with Bosch, and just before this January I was with Hella India. And I think a lot of automotive guys here, so I bring probably 25 years of experience with Bosch, Hella, and now with Tata Green.
Hi, I'm Shailendra Shukla. I represent Eaton, which has 7 manufacturing plants in the country, plus we have our Global Innovation Center also in the country, so more than 7,000 people strong here. So probably I'll try and bring some aspects of manufacturing and innovation in my inputs. Thank you.
So can we have a big round for my panelists who are here with me right now? Those are the people who inspire me. So what we'll do is, we'll go through, we have some questions in mind. You can also speak your heart. One question, 2 panelists at a time, so that we can have different perspective of the same question which we have. We'll have first 2, then the second set of 2, and the third set of the 2 which you can do. Before I start, I would like to remind this August gathering here that on 15 July 2015, Pradhan Mantri Modi, he launched this particular skill mission, and you could see the changes which we have. And we all know this, our country has the largest demography of the people who can work on the shop floor, who can contribute in the GDP by working here. And this particular aspect brings a lot of opportunity and also questions. One question which I had in my mind, and which I like to put to any 2 of you who can choose to answer is, how are the new age technologies been adapted in the manufacturing sector, and what are the skill requirements to cope with the technology trends in the sector? Now, this particular question, Anderson, any 2 can volunteer to speak. We have a simple rule, whoever answers this question will not get a chance to answer the next set of questions.
Okay, maybe I can go first. I think it's to understand why the skill development is required in the new age manufacturing. It's very essential for us to understand what's happening in this, the transformations which are happening in this manufacturing, which is really important for the success of today and tomorrow as well. So if I may list out, I have 6. One is certainly, I think there's a 4th industrial revolution, what we talk about Industry 4.0. I think that requires a lot of skill upgradation in terms of adoption in this. Second is, I think over a period of time, there's an increased demand for quality, increased demand for efficiency, and also we need to learn with all the challenges what we face in the supply chain. How do we become much more agile, efficient, and also in our ability to handle this crisis much better than what used to be. For example, if I talk about automotive, last 3 years we are going through a huge crisis in terms of the semiconductor chips. Yeah. Third is also new technologies and trends which are happening in the manufacturing that requires skill. The 4th is, I think, increased focus on sustainability also requires some amount of upgradation in terms of the skill. The 5th is make in India for the world. I think if you want to really make an impact, today what manufacturing contributes about 16% to the GDP, I think we have a vision for 26%, I think, which is very, very essential for the size of country like ours. I think that requires a different mindset and a different skill enhancement. And the last one is certainly the gender parity. Unfortunately, within manufacturing, I think it's less than 17% of female colleagues work in manufacturing. I think how do we drive so that we capitalize on the diversity, what we have, eliminating that shop floor, gender challenges, what we see, that requires a lot of education, upskilling of the existing colleagues. So these are the 6, I would say, which requires an upskilling, reskilling.
Sure. Thank you. So first of all, we'll understand the purpose, why you need new age technology, right? So you need safety first, there is productivity, there is quality, there is delivery, there is cost. So these are some drivers. but how do you really achieve it? There comes the automation piece and the industry 4.0, which my distinguished panelist has already mentioned. But if you dwell deeper in industry 4.0, it talks about Internet of Things, it talks about artificial intelligence, lot of cobos. By the way, cobos are different than robos. They are collaborative robos. You have cyber security, which is a challenge over there. Now you'll see there's a lot of digitization here. The new age manufacturing will be driven by sustainability, energy, and digitization. Some parameters is what I mentioned. What would this essentially mean is our workforce today, they need to be upskilled or reskilled, or some of them may have to find new avenues. And these are the areas we believe will be working. It's not only IT, it's the people who are operating on these machines. They also have to be reskilled. While I speak, we are deploying some of these, and it is a lot difficult than what we read in the books. The training of the people to change their behavior and work on the new set of things will require a lot of push and a lot of training. With this, over to you, sir.
So this is a very good insight, and one thing which you talked about diversity, and whatever little bit I understand is not only the women workforce, but the other communities who are also there. Maybe it is LGBT, or whether they are people with Divyang abilities who are there, or people who have come from the forces and would like to have a second inning this particular part. A lot has to be thought upon this. One figure which I thought I should share with the August gathering who is here, the Honorable Prime Minister flagship scheme, the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, today has seen 1.37 crore people been retrained. That's the enormous potential this particular scheme has. Let me go ahead and have more insight from the panelists. And the second question which comes, and obviously now you two can't participate in this particular is how should the training institutions update their curriculum to align it better with evolving technologies? I remember my days, we were getting trained on some technology, and the professors would tell us, okay, this is already a sunset. I'm just teaching you because it's compulsory in the curriculum, and you better take some classes outside the college. So this is always a challenge. Do we go to institutes which have got latest technology? How do we understand this? My son is in 12th standard, and I could see his mother struggling before filing the applications in the institute. Which institutes have more technology, latest technology, then rather than going to IITs or BITS of this thing. And when I asked her, why are you doing so? She said, I don't want my son to have a good degree from a good college, but I would like to have my son good skill so that he is employable once he comes out of the college. The question is, how should the training institutions update their curriculum to align it better in evolving technology? Who determines this? How do we do it? Who puts in the money? And how do we go ahead? Any two of you?
I'll take it this point because the new generation which has been coming has been educated in various colleges, but the demand of the industrial skill has been changing and have been upgrading over a period of time. So it becomes onus not only on the institution but also on the industries to own those institutes in terms of developing the skill crunch which has been required in building those syllabus for them, so that those kind of education could be served to the new upcoming generation. And they should be coming out not only as educated but also as with a skill in hand to work for the organizations in a sector, in a manufacturing sector. So as said, like if I talk of a typical molding machines, there is a colleges, there is an institution who had been delivering the people trained on the molding side. But if I talk of a casting, so there is very negligible institution which has been training people on the casting processes. For example, I've just taken this. If I talk of an assembly, a lot of industries has set up the training center. They hire the people, they deploy them for 10 days, 12 days on those training centers for their processes knowledge, for their assembly processes knowledge. So eventually they had been doing inside their own organization. So they have to expand the scope of that training to the institute, and they should have ownership of the institute in terms of building their curriculum on that part. So that's
I think what I will add is, we all know there is a big gap. Of course, I work with the Automotive Skill Development Council, and we do have industry participation, and regularly we do qualifications where this is what then they offer to the training partners. But what I see completely missing is now gone are the days when you have a very fixed curriculum. The need of the industry is changing so fast that if we look at from the global scale, let's like how the German system works with dual education system and how apprenticeship seen in our country. You rightly said that it is not about degree, but a skill. When you ask your wife, I think how many of us in society are looking at that way? I think we are highly obsessed with degree and designation. So our country, the designation moves with these kind of understanding, less on the skill. And I was telling the other day that in our country at least, any mother who wants to marry her girl child to somebody called master plumber or the chief technician is very less or probably not there. And why, when the society does not give that kind of reputation to skill and more on the designation and the degree, so-called IIMs and IITs, I think 2%, 3% of the crowd which can go there, but rest of the 98% feel they are in this run and probably they take the last option, so-called last option. Now this, probably what we are doing here with Festival of Manufacturing, I fully support, and I really am happy that how this is going to trickle down, because having that pride, we just heard about the last session, the sense of pride to be skilled. The moment we say skill, what comes on the top of mind is drivers, all these plumbers, and why? We are also having some skill, but we are known less by our skill, more by our designation. So somewhere it is not the supply side. I think our Prime Minister and the Ministry has done a great job now, and look at the numbers and the budget allocated. I think we can't even spend that much. I can see this in the council. But what is missing is the demand for this skill. And demand for this skill, in a way, it should really make industry then benefit, which is about apprenticeship. I come from a background where in Bosch, I was an apprentice, and I could see an apprentice becoming president of the company, but I don't see it very general, that you can see somebody coming on the shop floor and becoming the CEO. Now, this is where we are missing. So for me, I think more than updating the curriculum, probably we have to look for the demand for this skill in a way. Why can't you have a 10-hour apprenticeship or a 20-hour apprenticeship? Today you look at gamification in the digital world, that our children are so much online and they learn a lot of skill online with this gamified portal. So can we come to a stage of the curriculum update which is more on the challenge based on a continuum, but that needs demand side also has to be tackled.
Thank you. So the audio guys who had come in, I had two messages which I got. One is that I would request the panelists to keep the mic firmly in front of the this thing, because this skill training has to be done to the people who are successful leaders many times. Secondly, he said, आपने सबका परिचय कर दिया, अपना नहीं किया था. So I thought मेरा जरूरी नहीं था, फिर भी because I've been told, I'll just tell. Did my post-graduation from Mumbai University and then resigned from IBM as a partner for South Asia scaling and staffing. And I migrated and reskilled myself and went into the policy space. And today I'm a spokesperson of Bharatiya Janata Party. I don't know how many of you would have migrated like this. Of course, was a part of the task force which, along with Mohandas Pai, in the Ministry of Road Transport and Highway and Shipping. Currently, I'm governing council member for CRIS, which is Ministry of Railways. Have written a book called as Data Sovereignty along with my senior colleagues from Forge and Raw, which is there in the marketplace, which you can see. So I hope I have satisfied the organizer by giving my introduction. So I have one set of questions for the last pair, which is there, which is not spoken, is how do you improve your skills of your manufacturing workforce, coupled with a question called as increasing the efficiency of manufacturing. Now, one, you have to increase the individual who is there, who is production, and two, you also have to justify your own capital investment which has been done by increasing the efficiency. Now we have Mr. Guva and Mr. Chandra.
See, I come from pharma background, so pharma is little different than that of other manufacturing activities, because pharma practically is a knowledge-based industry where it, across the levels, you require a set of knowledge, because otherwise, you can't. And knowledge improves the skill. But to have a sustainability of continuity of their efforts as well as their efforts turning into productivity, these actually what we do is normally we give them periodical training. Continuously we plan training throughout the year for them. Because pharma has already adopted many of these new age technologies like your digitalization, as well as in many places robotics are also in place, as well as we are contemplating with ideas of bringing AI in our manufacturing. Very shortly we will bring AI also in our manufacturing. So these things are absolutely driven by skill. You can't drive this without skill. And if you see pharma industry basically is run by the regulators, because you have FDAs which governs you, and then quality is one thing which is there is a zero tolerance to bad quality. So you have to give a good quality, because quality is means there is no compromise with quality. A pharma company just can't compromise with quality. No. So in that case, everybody across the levels, starting from the production head to the shop floor worker, everybody is trained well so that we don't make any mistake, and everything has to be in line with the SOP, as well as as per the direction of FDAs, because without that we can't do anything. So everything, because every strip, every tablet, or every liquid what you manufacture, or every injectable what you manufacture has to match the standard of the GMP which you are following. Okay, and currently there are various GMPs across the world. Like we follow particularly CGMP, that is current that is good manufacturing practices, which we follow here. But otherwise, in our export units and all, we have UK MHRA approved plant, as well as one plant is US FDA approved plant. So these are completely governed by those FDAs. We just can't see that anything goes wrong anywhere. Even a floor has to be in line with the recommendation of the FDAs. So that is the kind of standard we have to maintain. And to maintain this, that's what I said, that we have to train our people. We spend a lot on training actually. That really gives us the desired result what we look forward. And that's how we see that, and more so as pointed out by many speakers in the past, that there is a gender biasness, and female workers, they don't come and join the main force of manufacturing. But in pharma, what I have seen is that it's not a fact. In pharma setup, I have seen that at least 30% employees are from that is women workforce is coming and joining, because they are treated very well, they are looked upon, and all types of facilities are given to them. They are treated as good as that of any men worker, and in terms of uplifting their positions and all, they are given equal facilities, or equal weightage is being given. So we don't have such kind of situation in pharma. And now coming to the incremental productivity or efficiency, as I said, that efficiency only can come when you have got a skilled workforce, and this workforce includes your production head to your QA QC, as well as all levels of including shop floor workers. Everybody has to have that understanding that why they are there in that platform. So that is how pharma has been maintaining their quality, and most of the pharma companies follow this practice.
Okay. Mr. Chandran.
The benefit of speaking in the last, I can talk on about everyone's point, but then I'll give you a different perspective, which will be from a different market field perspective. So I belong to the auto sector, and as you all, as the users of automobiles, you will understand that our sales are quite easily quantifiable. Everyone knows how many cars or bikes we sell every month or every year. That also means whatever problems are there in the manufacturing, they are also very easily quantifiable. So they go back to the factory in a very defined manner, which car, which VIN number or which bike, which VIN number has what kind of problem or warranty issues or whatnot. That means there is a reverse process. And I have seen in my previous companies and my current companies that we do share that kind of market data with our team members, that what you do in the factory goes to the customer and probably it may come back to haunt us in the future. So increasing the skill level also means giving them the ownership of the entire process, giving the plant manufacturing staff the honest opinion about what market is thinking. And this is what we do. In fact, I do not know how many of you are here from the auto sector, but there are processes in almost every company about giving the first failure report, which we call FFR. There are so many processes. So what happens? The feedback goes from the market and the team down at the line, they have the ownership of what they do. And that's how their entire skilling or reskilling is being done. So while we talk of Six Sigma, the blue collar worker may not know what Six Sigma knows, but he definitely knows what his probably a shorty job would do to the life of the customer or the user of the car or the bike. In our case, we know in India, the automobile purchase is almost the second costliest purchase in the life after the house. And in my case, probably it can be costlier than the house itself because Ducati is that costly. So as we don't have a factory here in India, so I will not talk about Indian perspective, but back in Italy or in Thailand, we have a very serious process of giving the feedback back to the team members at the factory about if there are any losses, any problems, and then reskilling happens on new technologies, on the new ways of manufacturing and everything, so that the customer gets the bike right first time. So probably the feedback, which is a very important term, not the feedback as it. The feedback from the market is our way of reskilling our staff at the factory level.
So I sometimes enjoy being a moderator because I can always tell my panelists, अपना हाथ इस पे रख कर बात करेंगे तो ठीक से जाएगा. But let me tell you, my son is a fan of your bikes, and I heard the word Ducati from my son first time, and I had to ask him 2-3 times कि क्या बता रहा था, and then he said कि this is because we come from that generation which migrated from desktops to mobile, so it is difficult for many times for us to understand terminology. A very trivial example which I like to give to this August gathering, very trivial. हर घर में होता होगा शायद वो. And then I will have that question to one or two of you is this. When this COVID happened and we were all locked, so all of a sudden there was a lockdown happened, so we were not only locked with the family but also our house staff, which is there. घर में जो रसोइया होता है वो भी हमारे साथ में रहेगा. And what do we do in the lockdown? And all of a sudden I could see my cook cooking something which we had forgotten as a tradition to be made. And I don't know how many more of you would know something called as kanji ka vada, if you heard about this dish which has been made and floated in water and then been eaten after 2 days. We had forgotten for say 2 decades, and all of a sudden I see my cook making that in the lockdown period. And I went and asked him कि ये आपने कैसे किया? तो मेरी मदर दादी बनाती थी, लेकिन कैसे? तो इस कि सर खाली बैठा हुआ था तो YouTube पे देखकर डिजिटली ट्रेन होकर मैंने बनाया. And then a word which came to my mind is, are we moving to a term which is called as phygital? Physical work and training in the office plus the digital input, because the disruption in the technology is not that simple that you would manufacture your bikes or your batteries or your pharma, but the disruption which has come because of IT, and that I could see in my own house. These 2 boys, Ravi and Umesh, the cooks, they said, otherwise तो आप हमसे सिर्फ चाय बनवाते रहते हो, 50 गेस्ट आते हैं, लेकिन आज हमको मौका मिला तो we could learn from the technology, and they did it, and they made 40-45 those items which we had otherwise forgotten in life. So how do we go to this physical, which is a new normal in manufacturing? Now you can't say that हमारे पास एक machine है, हम die निकालते हैं, बाहर piece आ जाता है. Now there is a challenge, you have to go physical every time. Any one of you can choose this particular question and satisfy me. I could say everybody is that. Yeah. So what we would do is, this being a very important question, if I can request each of my panelists, briefly 60 seconds each of us, because this is which is going to concern not only the technologies or the sectors which is currently on the dais, but everybody. That's why I chose to give a very trivial example of my house. Everybody would like to speak for 60 seconds, please.
Yeah.
Mr. Guha first.
I'll be as short as you are expecting to be. Okay. So actually, let me tell you one thing that our plants are automated. So obviously, it is run by completely run by either digitally it is run or it is IT driven. Entire thing is like that. But of course, there is actually we say that there is no human touch in that. But practically there is human touch because from the starting point to the end point, whatever it is, the time taking, it is all monitored by human being, the person who is in charge of that, and he's keeping a track. And also, through naked eye, we need to see whether there is any error or any element of doubt is there or not. So that where there is a physical intervention, but otherwise it is all run, by technology. So this is what digital you can say. This is how it is done.
So everybody will speak. So anybody can speak right now.
Yeah, so for us, especially when you look at the training or learning to your own operators on an ongoing basis, because on-the-job training is the biggest part of our training. And in some of the processes, whatever you do, you can't handle it physically. And that is where we are using all those glasses. With the glasses, and then you also can get, because for us it's a JV between a Japanese company called GS Yuasa, and the knowledge actually comes from there. And the knowledge transfer becomes so easy now because you don't have to wait for the feedback system. Directly the machine is running and you can make an augmented reality, and with the lens it goes, and then the feedback also comes almost instant. So on a real-time basis, what we can do with this technology is awesome. And I only feel now that this part is getting solved and more technology is there. I'm only looking forward that how can we then just scale it up in many of the hazardous industry where we need this technology to be more closer to those activity. But at the same time, I again come back that these technologies are fine, superior, great, but how can we get demand for them in the industry?
Thank you. I would like to share one anecdotal example. Somewhere I read, maybe when our parents were working, it was 22, 23 years of formal education and then 40 years of working, then 20 years of retirement. I think now things have changed. Maybe 23 years of formal education, 40 years of daily work, learning. Because if you don't learn, if you don't skill yourself, reskill yourself, you don't stay relevant. So from that perspective, skill has become really, really very important. Having said this, we had a huge challenge since we use we make a lot of advanced technologies for the products like autonomous driving, user experience. We have a lot of millennials. For them to reskill, if you use the conventional classroom, they will never learn. So we had to invent a new methodology. So what we started something called as a software academy, where everything is gamified. We have more than about 800 different skill set where they would like to learn on the move to upgrade themselves, reskills themselves. So that has been a huge success, and now we do, sitting here in India for the entire world of Continental, where about 2 lakh employees take the advantage of learning this on a digital mode. That's one example I would like.
Well, if we go into the digitalized point of view in terms of developing the skill, many processes are there wherein we cannot go for a practical skill development training kind of a situation. So in those cases, we have to build those videos and we have to train, and many industry has been following, and I had a live example in my own industry wherein we need to train casters for doing the gravity die casting. So we have to make a video and you have to train the people, hire the fresh people, and train them into the classroom and show them the practicality, how things are happening, because this is a critical process which involves risk as well if has been done wrong. So these people had been giving good result, and this thing is going to pick it up very fast, because practical training and classroom training. So classroom training is going to get revolutionized with the video training, wherein people could learn more easily by seeing what is happening.
Well, I love to be at odds with everything. So as Mr. Guha said that the pharma industry, anything cannot be touched by hand. in my sector, or rather in my company, most of the bikes are actually handmade. So we are at a very different end of the spectrum. However, what we have done, two things which are very important. We have almost made the entire testing of the bike on a digital level. Earlier it used to take lots of time because the bike or any automobile has lots of moving parts. So we have made the process quite on a digitized level so that the time taken is less, the quality is better. And second part, the entire training of our factory people, even myself as a salespeople or as a field person, has been made digitized. So we have smarter learning, web academy, whether it is on laptop or on your mobile as an app, everything. So probably these two things which have helped our people at the factory level in a very, very big way. And needless to mention, very serious push on this thing started from the COVID time itself. So probably that has been one of the biggest disruptor, probably coming to be one of the best helping hand today now.
Sure. So IT you cannot avoid today, but you cannot eliminate physical as well. So, and I think that is what the best example of physical would be. And personally speaking, I would want to highlight and I would appeal to all the policy makers, there is going to be more and more man-machine interface as we move ahead. That's where the cobos and the robos we are talking about. And there will be one point of time where the line will be very thin. And that is where I think the policymakers will come into picture, some new constitution may come in. But where the digital and where the physical will come into play, I'll quickly spend 20 seconds on that. So other than the training, I believe a lot of simulation, customer engagements can happen on the digital world. But when it comes to the real product, coming out, that is where the physical would play an important role. And I believe as in how we move forward, the interface would continue. It would be quite some time where physical need will go down, but I believe both will stay together. Thank you.
It is actually economical also in some case. One use case at ASDC we have done is for the painting. You know, if you use paint for all the freshers, you can actually spoil a lot of them. So they have done very good VR where you can actually have those in your hand and get direct feedback, almost preparing themselves for the final trial then. So it is economical if you use training where you have to spoil a lot of raw material and consumables.
So we started at 5 minutes past 1 o'clock, that is, and now it is almost 1:40, 35 minutes this thing, and I have limited time. 3 parts for the next this thing. One, we'll have one question been spoken. We'll have 3 questions from the audience. Please keep, and the best question, I'm sure one of them will sponsor lunch to that person who speaks. And if you ask a good question, let me correct him. Let me correct Shalendra. And if you ask a very good question, I get the bike. The ride is free. I have a habit of giving a trivial example to make a powerful and impactful this thing, and that's why I gave that example of the cook making this thing. Let me give you one more example. Questions I'll ask once the panels are over. You just be prepared that I'll ask 3 people. So one more example is the policy makers have to be also trained. They also have to be told कि कुछ करना पड़ेगा. So what are the current government's initiative? What the government will do? How the manufacturing sector will do it? पहले तो सरकार के लोगों को थोड़ा बहुत ट्रेन तो करना पड़ेगा. I'll give you one example which happened with me, and if you choose to laugh, you can laugh on me, but I was trained. So I was appointed governing council member, and then coming from the B school, from IBM and this background, and I said कि आज सारा कुछ बदल दूंगा. And sales guy would understand. I said, I went in the first governing council meeting and I asked the MD Chris, then Dr. Das, I said, हम चेंज कर सकते हैं. कोच जो होता है उसमें 4 टॉयलेट्स होते हैं, अगर आपने देखा होगा तो 2 रखेंगे, 2 निकाल देंगे, तो उसमें 8 सीट्स बर्थ और हो जाएंगे. You see that same space has been taken for 2 toilets. And I said, with the small change we can increase 11% revenue. 8 seats out. The coach is of 72, so 8 बढ़ सकते हैं. And he said, sir, we will take 10 minutes break and then we'll come back because you have raised a very important question. And I really thought that he wants time to think. So in that time he said, come sir, मैं आपको एक चाय पिला के लेकर आता. And he took me out. And he asked me a question and I was zapped. In fact, I was very angry also that time, and I can share with you. And he asked me, sir, when you go to toilet in the morning, how much time do you spend? And I was like, absurd. This is an important meeting which is going on, and you take me out of the meeting room to ask me this question. Yet I understood that he's trying to drive something. I said, almost around 5 minutes. He said, yes, sir. And generally, when do you want to go to the toilet, Lou? In the morning when you get up. Now that was getting more weird and है ना पॉलिसी मेकर हम सब नेता लोग हैं हमको तो सब कुछ पता होता है जन्म से पहले बता आप लोग सोचते हो उसके पहले so I was getting more agitated. I said morning 6:30 to 8 o'clock is the time when generally I would like to visit the loo. He said, sir, I have 72 passengers, each take 5 minutes. That means I should have a window of how much? 90 minutes. And you want to go to loo only between 6:30 to 8 o'clock. That is also a window of 90 minutes. I have to fit this 90 minutes in that 90 minutes. I have 4 toilets. 72 divided by 4 comes to 18. 18 into 5 is 90 minutes. If I remove one toilet, sir, it will be 72 divided by 3, which will be 24. It will go to how many minutes? It will spill over to 8:30. There will be knockings and uncomfortable things. If I remove 2 toilets, it will be 72 divided by 2, which will be 36. The time span will be till 9 o'clock. Will you be able to hold till 9 o'clock, sir? If you can't hold, then how will my other passengers hold? So, why these examples and these things which have happened with us and travel? These are not the people who wrote Shakespeare's books, and these are not the people who did it. Lifetime. And it was everything for me that as a policy maker, if I don't know the basics of the reasonings of what it has been done, probably our thinking will be out of excitement and not out of thoughtfulness. I would like to, one question, if you can start from there, is what are the current government's initiatives, and 2, what are the 2 initiatives which you would like to request or to suggest or to demand from the government which will bring us near to the target of 5 trillion economy? देश को अगर वहाँ तक लेके जाना, that's how the slope which I said first is, Ajat Putra Balidata, your country will be sacrificed, you will lose your name. You will lose your citizenship if we are meek and the weak. What you'll have to do is to become very strong. And to become strong, you will have to make your country a 5 trillion country, you know, and faster. And skill will be one of the drivers. And for skill, people like us who are naive sometimes and we decide to remove those 2 toilets, have to be told on the face that these are the 2 things which you have to do, or these are the 2 things which are good, which you promote, sir.
So from the government perspective, there are a lot of initiative which has been done. There has been an Apprentice Act which has been active since 1961, which was there live or dead, people had been utilizing or not, but of late in 2014 onwards, it become very aggressive in terms of developing the apprentice skills. The government has been putting a lot of emphasis in terms of making sure that the industry hire the people, train them to the skill requirement, because government is not able to map all the skills whatever industry is requiring right now. So industry can by their own define those skills and hire them, and government is also paying stipend as a return to the industry in terms of making sure, you know, it's on the both the side. If we see to the government side, that government should also push maybe industry or manufacturing sector in terms of owning the institute and building the curriculum right at the education stage, wherein the education plus 6 skill can be you know, merged together, and that could come out with a very good combination. So this is what I expect from the government in that perspective.
I think that, you know, government of course is giving a lot of schemes today and trying to build the skills of the, you know, people across, you know, the level. But what I think is that, you know, government should bring all this, you know, manufacturing companies into the fold, and you know, private public partnership should be there in terms of, you know, developing the skill of the workforce particularly. Because that is the area where, you know, we need to improve more. And if that is done, then in that case, you know, government certainly can, you know, whatever money government is spending, it may be, government may have to spend a little more on that, but private companies also will be a party to, and as per the need of every company, that can be a tailor-made course which can suit to every manufacturing, you know, that is filled. And as per that, you know, we can get workforce. That is what my request is.
Yeah. So
Okay, can I?
Yeah, of course. Everybody.
So I think I'm a part of one of the institution's advisory committee on the NEP is a great initiative, I have to say. I think once it gets rolled out in the March, I think there's a lot of practical associated with everything, which is good. Number two, even before asking government or policymakers what they should do, I think as an industry, I think we need to collaborate more with the educational institutions. Unless that industry academia partnership strengthens, I don't think we'll be able to extract anything more out of it. That's very important. Having said this, the request from the industry could be, I think we have done great strides when it comes to software in India. I think now if you talk about the transformation which is happening in the automotive, it's becoming an extended IoT device. I think there's a lot of R&D which goes into making of this the new age cars. Yeah, I think there if government could look at some sort of incentives for setting up an R&D. Today, unfortunately, the spend on R&D in India is less than 1.25% compared to double-digit spends in other countries. What it happens, I think that's where we could still drive that. That would be request from our side.
Yes. So in part, I agree to the continental thought process, because you may not be aware, companies like Ducatis, we are customers to Continental and Bosch kind of companies. We take their parts and employ in our bikes. What happens for companies like us who are usually very small in size? Ducati worldwide has just crossed 1 billion euros. So peanuts by any standards. For us, coming to India is a very tough task. The entry barriers are very high. So my request to the government would be, look at a situation whereas relatively smaller companies like ours can come to the country in a more easier way, in a more focused way, so that we can contribute to the economy in a much larger way. We need to look at various things. There are small parts which will add up to be a big thing.
I think government is doing from supply side enough. If I look at my own working at ASDC and ACMA, there is a lot. If you look at now the Skill University, if you look at the NEP coming up, if you look at how we are integrating schools with the skill system, both parallel ecosystem coming together, I think this is a great initiative. Only thing, the speed expectation is that speed should be so much that somebody going to school and college and somebody getting into the skill ecosystem should be similar. It should not be like last option to go to ITI, or if you are not in the good 12th marks, then you go to a diploma institute. So this disparity, if we can change and make very faster integration to this is one. It should not be non-school. School itself should give everything. It can be an option of skill or education that way. The second thing which I definitely very strongly I recommend is what we did with the sports, with the Olympics getting popular in India, Prime Minister himself coming up, giving respect and pride. Same thing if you can do the skill ecosystem and make a lot of festivals and celebrations of, let's say, World Skill Contest or Skill India. Nobody talks about it. Can we take it on a prime time? That will make a difference.
Sure. You asked for two, I'll give you three. One obviously is infrastructure and ecology, where talent attraction and retention can happen. Second is innovation, already spoken about. Third, not very vocally coming, lot of local interferences wherever the manufacturing plants are located by the local leaders over there. Stop that. Okay, so that's from my side.
It's already 50 past 1, so we are almost on the end. How much time do I have? Can I ask one question? Okay. So, yeah. An only question, please.
Yeah, no comments, sir. I'll be very specific. My name is Manik. I'm the CEO for a company called Shunya. We work in the waste sector. So my question to you is, while we're talking of skilling, we are mostly looking at the factory staff, relatively low income, but I have a challenge on the other end. When I look at the super skilled in our country, those of us who have the good fortune to attend the glorious institutions, so I work in waste, and sustainability is obviously close to us. We get to the table and we are in discussions with the sustainability folks, which is almost somewhat...
What is the question?
The question is, when we're looking at design, when we're looking at the design philosophy of the organization, of a manufacturing organization, we talk about cradle to cradle, and we talk about planned obsolescence at the same time. When and how can we actually incorporate the sensitivity to waste? We are building a youth cadre. But when we're looking at the chief design officers, what is the best way to unlearn and learn there so that it reflects very quickly, maybe within a 12-month span?
So we will take the questions, answers we can summarize and tell at a time so that we can hear the questions, and a little different in this panel because, yeah, one there and another is to this gentleman. Yeah, please there. And only questions, what we'll do is, we'll understand the questions right now, and then we'll try to summarize and give one answer at a time.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for giving me this opportunity. Am I not loud here? Yeah. All right. Greetings to all the luminary gentlemen sitting up front. My question is very short and sweet. I'll be very, okay. My name is Dr. Shobir Bhatt. I'm a diplomat, doctor, entrepreneur, and MOC at Niti Aayog, and a BJP member. Gentlemen, here's what I'm going to ask you. What do you think of metaverse bringing in virtual reality to pharma industry, Ducati man, the bike industry, and the other two gentlemen working for auto ancillary products? And to you,
Fantastic.
Mr.
So maybe one last question, and that is a very nice thing, if you can ask.
I have a question written out. Policy, procedure, and precautions. How do you ensure adaptability, keeping in mind data security in view of the new age technologies as manufacturers, as one of the largest producers and utilizers of data?
This is getting tougher for the panelists. And
one last one.
Yeah, sir.
When we categorize a skill in different segments, we used to have different type of categories and labels: blue collar, white collar, this collar. Now, have we reached as an economy on a verge where we need to restructure because dependent on the skill?
So very valid, very valid. So what I would do is, the coordinator is already on the stage, and she's wearing red. So which means that we should stop. There are many questions. There are certain answers which my panelists can give. I will not ask my panelists right now to answer it immediately. These questions we can take offline when we are down there. Continue this conversation because panel may be sitting here for 1 hour, but the conversation should go on. I am on a Twitter handle called as Vineet Goenka, @VINITGOENKA. Ask me question. If I have an answer, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll patch you up with the other panelists who are here. And thank you, ma'am, for allowing us to complete 60 minutes. I was asked to ration it to 55, but I chose. Hum bhi 5 minute ghus jayenge. Thank you, everybody, for asking more questions, and we'll continue the conversation.